Gary Brown, GARRYBROWN, and I am the Executive Assistant to Williamson County Commissioner Terry Cook. Progress Texas is the only organization out there that fights on behalf of progressive organizations and legislation. They are the anti-ALEC, and I think that's incredibly important, especially here in Texas.
It's Thursday, May 29th, 2025, and this is the Progress Texas Daily Dispatch, rapid response on the breaking news stories Texas progressives need to know. I'm Chris Mosier. Starting here with a bit that shouldn't be political at all, but of course now it is. Priscilla Aguirre at mysanantonio.com covers the death of an 18-year-old Air Force Academy student, Ava Moore, who was struck by a jet ski while kayaking on Grapevine Lake over Memorial Day weekend and died. The alleged operator of that jet ski, Dakerlin Alejandra Gonzalez, who fled the scene and was arrested later in Dallas, turns out to be a Venezuelan national who had crossed into the country illegally but was in the legal immigration process with a court hearing scheduled, which of course is where it gets political. Governor Greg Abbott, who of course doesn't get involved in any of the other dozens of watercraft fatalities that happen on Texas lakes every single year, has taken to Twitter in this case to call for the death penalty in a situation that by all accounts falls well short of a capital crime. We're talking negligent homicide or manslaughter here, not premeditated murder. This harkens back to Donald Trump's full-page New York Times ad that called for the deaths of the Central Park Five, who of course later were exonerated. This is how Republicans see due process in our country. They are more than willing to fan the flames of xenophobic, racist hate, taking advantage of the tragic death of a young American woman with a bright future in order to maintain political power. Everyone wants justice here, but we must see Abbott's statement for what it is. The Republican right runs on anger, retribution, and revenge, not on actual justice. Both Gonzalez and another Venezuelan national who helped her escape from the scene of the accident are now in ICE custody. Latest on Texas's worst transplant, Elon Musk. Reuters says Musk's had enough and is bidding the Trump team adieu after upending several important federal agencies in a supposed attempt to increase efficiency through his Doge efforts, but ultimately failing to deliver anything but chaos and the undermining of our country's global status. Whether Musk is quitting here or was fired is unclear, but his departure comes on the heels of very public commentary against Donald Trump's marquee tax bill, which Musk correctly criticizes for the massive multi-trillion-dollar bloat it will impose on the national debt, going in the opposite direction from where Musk was supposedly trying to go with Doge, while his teenage crew was hacking all of our federal data systems, of course. By the way, about Trump's big, beautiful bullshit bill, stealing one here from Ezra Klein at the New York Times, there's a direct and highly cynical parallel between the dollar amounts attached to both the proposed cuts to social benefits programs for our most vulnerable people and the proposed tax cuts for the wealthiest Americans. By pure coincidence, I'm sure, they both total right at $1.1 trillion. That's over $1 trillion in one fell swoop in one single bill, directly transferred from the poorest Americans to the richest Americans. It's that simple, and it's that cynical. To the Texas State Capitol, 4 days to sine die on Monday. It's much like drinking from a fire hose at this point, but here are a few highlights. Let's start with that ridiculous press conference thrown yesterday by Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, in which he piled a table with THC snack products, falsely claimed that they induce immediate permanent insanity, lied about the actual amount of THC they actually contain, and then began tossing them out to the audience. Scott Braddock at the Quorum Report tweeted along with video, quote, "I just walked out because the whole thing was stupid. Dan has stopped acting in good faith on all fronts and is just a jerk to nearly everyone," unquote. Scott's Texas Take podcast partner Jeremy Wallace of the Houston Chronicle at that same presser asked Patrick why grown-ass adults couldn't be trusted to buy those same products. The lieutenant governor refused to answer, calling the question stupid. Dan's ban is a full-on shit show. Kevin Curtin at the Austin Chronicle writes that there's still hope that Governor Abbott might see an opportunity to appear sane here and vetoes Senate Bill 3 after yesterday's clown show featuring Dan Patrick as the head clown. While that veto still seems improbable, it's maybe a little more likely. Abbott has remained conspicuously quiet about Senate Bill 3. There's better news when it comes to medical marijuana, or as good as we might hope for in Texas anyway. The governor is also poised to sign House Bill 46 into law, which ended up after a pretty major paring back by the Senate on Tuesday, a fairly significant expansion of the medical conditions that will be accepted for the Texas Compassionate Use Program, or TCUP. Chronic pain, hospice care, and terminal illness will all now be within the scope of the program, in addition to current qualifying conditions including epilepsy, MS, ALS, PTSD, and others. Good news, but the fact remains that Texas's medical marijuana program is one of the strictest in the country, even with this expansion. There's good news in renewable energy, which during a recent mid-May heat wave pulled our fat out of the fire, keeping the AC on. We spotlighted the fact that Senate Bill 819, a deliberate kneecapping of future renewable expansion in Texas, was being debated at the Capitol right as that heat wave was happening. It appears to be dead in the water, says Michelle Lewis at Electrek, as the Senate has failed to meet deadlines that would have allowed it to pass in the House. Two other related Senate bills, 388 and 715, also appear dead for this session. They would have placed limits on future battery storage expansion and would have placed onerous backup requirements on existing renewable infrastructure. Adrian Shelley, Texas Director of Public Citizen, says, quote, "The failure of these three bills is a victory for ratepayers. It's also a tacit recognition by a legislature that is too friendly to fossil fuels that renewable energy sources are an indispensable part of powering the state," unquote. Meanwhile, Rachel Matea at PV Magazine says a bill speeding up the permitting process for home solar and energy storage installations has been sent to the governor. Senate Bill 1202 allows licensed third parties like engineers to review and inspect documents for home backup power installations instead of regulatory authorities. Still loads to unpack in these last days of the session, and as the governor does his thing, stick with us here at Progress Texas to try and make sense of it all. No small task, I assure you. DFW and North Texas friends, please mark your calendars. From Monday, June the 9th, we'll be celebrating our 15th anniversary in Dallas. Links to become a supporter and to secure your tickets are up now at progresstexas.org. We once again shout out our generous event sponsors: Howard Cleon, Charles Zeller, Pamela Pearson, Alex Andrade, Scott Elphinstone, the law offices of Domingo A. Garcia PC, Carol Taylor, Chuck Cruz, Amy Forehand, Eric Johnson and Dr. Mark Parker, John Mazzaro, the Honorable Gene Wu, the Dallas County Democratic Party, Carol Orr, and many more. Thanks all y'all for having our back. We look forward to seeing you on Monday, June 9th again for 15 years of Progress in Dallas. Tickets and more at progresstexas.org. Our mission at Progress Texas is to counter the conservative disinformation machine, but they far outmatch us in funding. Oil and tech billionaires and religious right-wing activist groups spend a lot of money keeping their audiences in the dark. If you've come to appreciate the light that we shine on important political news in Texas on a daily, ongoing basis, please know that our regular, everyday listeners form a key component of our funding. And if that's you, we could use your support as a monthly contributor, and no amount is too small. Go to progresstexas.org/donate. Thanks to Scott Leifert, Janet Gilmore, and Pete Schenken, all of whom have joined the team lately. We appreciate all of you very, very much. That's the Progress Texas Daily Dispatch for this Thursday, May 29th, 2025. Links to all these original stories can be found in our show notes. Progress Texas is a nonprofit rapid response media organization promoting progressive messages and actions. While campaigns come and go, we're the permanent home for progressive media and action in the Lone Star State. I'm Chris Mosier. Thanks so much for listening. Have a great day. We'll see you again tomorrow morning.